Hello dear students, warm welcome to Swayam Prabha channel. Today we are going to discuss on the topic Library Committee. I am Dr. Naushad Ali, working as a professor in the Department of Library and Information Science at Aligarh Muslim University, Aligarh, Uttar Pradesh. The objective behind today's discussion is to create an overall view of Library Committee, its importance, types and functions in decision making process. As we all know that the library is a non-profit institution having a complex management structure with a huge collection of information sources and resources of printed and non-printed artifacts made available to a defined community for their extensive use. The present day libraries and information centers facing a great challenge in providing better information services to its clientele in a cost effective manner. The librarian alone cannot bear the heavy burden of governing, policy making and managing a library, though his or her colleagues assist him in the routine of library. The administrative and policy issues are to be shared by some more persons. Good governance is a must for the effective functioning of library system as a whole as well as that of its different components. It is a strong bedrock on which the entire structure of the library system is erected. Weak governance makes the system also weak. Any governance is manifested through boards, councils, authorities, committees comprising of members appointed, nominated, elected and co-opted. They are the source of moral and material support. They will provide legal and other expertise and spokespersons of public aspirations and expectations. So it is clear that committees are required to run a library smoothly and effectively. Now let us see what is a library committee. Library committee is a body of organization consists of persons who are assigned the job of governance of a library. Library committee consists of group of people who are responsible for the progress of the organization and responsible in making strategies and policies for the development of the library. A library authority may appoint such a committee. A library authority can be a person or a group like a board of management, board of trustees, etc. that has power to make decisions and implement them. Now we can check why we need a library committee. The library being a complex setup, a librarian alone should not carry the whole burden of managing the library. The librarian requires the committee to serve as a buffer agency and an interpreter of the needs of the library to the community. In the absence of a library committee, the librarian would find himself defenseless and unprotected. The committee will assess the financial needs of the library. If the committee is absent, When some financial difficulties may arise, librarians who are not representatives of the elected people cannot successfully solicit contributions from the government, whereas library committees are the representatives bodies of the people can make a successful and compelling pressure to get more financial assistance from the authorities. By following national standards, committees can appoint competent librarian and assess the talent and professional qualifications of librarians and their staff. Library committee can also be political tools. In other words, the librarian puts his ideas into the heads of the committee members, achieve a lot politically. Members of the committee, who are also the members of the public, keep the librarian on guard at all times. This way, librarians can shape their personality as able administrators. The committee promotes understanding between readers and the library policy. Library committees have a strong voice and can easily persuade authorities and the public. We can discuss the type of committees. There are many kinds of library committees exist. Let us enumerate one by one. Executive committee, self-perpetuating committee, ad hoc committee, nominated or elected committee, reporting committee, and recommending committee. Let us discuss it one by one. Executive committee. This committee is the most powerful of all the types except that of self-perpetuating committee, since it has full powers in those matters which are delegated to it. It need not report its decision to the library authority. The next committee is self-perpetuating committee. The self-perpetuating committee is a creature of special statutes that establishes the libraries themselves. Such a committee has sole and independent authority over the control and management of the library under it. It is not accountable to another high authority for its activities. In South Africa, such a committee exists under the Cape Town Act 33 of 1893. In the United States, we also find such committees. Another committee is ad hoc committee. Ad hoc committee is a special committee to supervise and control libraries. The Madras Public Library Act of 1948 provides for the appointment of such committees. This committee is more or less independent and has nothing to do with local government agencies. This committee is also known as Statutory Authority Committee. It has the advantage of being independent from the politics. Ad hoc committee takes quick decisions. It can co-opt men of intellect and foresight, but it sometimes conflict with the local government agencies, which can impede the work of such a committee by delaying the collection of taxes and duties. This committee acts as an authority of the library. Such a committee can also mean a special committee to do special work. The next committee is nominated or elected committee. A major committee or agency nominates or elects a smaller body to serve certain of its subordinate bodies. The committee delegates certain tasks to such a committee. The State Library Committee under the Andhra Pradesh Public Library Act is an example of such committee. The recommending committee, it has no real powers other than merely making certain proposals which are subject to the approval of the library authorities. Reporting committee. The reporting committee has sufficient powers to decide the matters within certain limits. Such decisions do not require confirmation from the supreme authority, but are communicated to it for information. Dear students, next we are going to discuss the powers and functions of library committees. The powers and functions of library committees vary according to its type. In the case of an executive committee, the powers and functions, responsibilities are expanded, while that is the case of the report revision committee, these are greatly reduced. Despite of these variances, there are some general functions that must be performed by almost all library committees. Almost all proposals for the discussion of library committee meetings are presented by the librarian, who generally serve as the ex officio secretary of the committee. These functions broadly related to the following points. Library building. The library committee should ensure that library building are functional and modular. If appropriate, library services are to be provided to its readers. It should be environment friendly building which provide natural light and air and be hygienic. The building should be in a central location or in the city or community concern so that readers can easily access the library. Necessary arrangement must be made to properly maintain the library building. Another function towards library furniture and equipment. The next important function of the library committee is to ensure that libraries are provided with proper, orderly and comfortable library facilities and furnishing. Only standard furniture items should be provided. This will allow you to add any number of the same items in the future without having to move or waste money and the space. Library staff. Library staff plays very vital role in providing library services. Library committees must employ qualified and appropriate library personnel to provide standard library services to its readers. Library boards will supervise to implement accepted standards to determine the number of staff and their pay scales and make promotions sufficient to retain staff for a reasonable period of time. This will help proper development of the libraries. The next function of library committee is library funding and collection. The library committee should allocate sufficient funds to gather basic book collections and incorporate recent books into the library. The type of collection should be appropriate for the community you serve. Otherwise, the library becomes a stagnant pool. A subcommittee may be appointed to act as a book selection committee to ensure that the book list is thoroughly scrutinized so as not to purchase unnecessary books. To this end, the members of this subcommittee should be expert in various fields of knowledge. Keeping in touch with the ever-growing literature, certain professionals may be recruited for this purpose in the absence of suitable persons on the library committee. The next function of library committee is on library rules. Library committee generally establish a set of library rules that are flexible rather than rigid and that meet the needs of the readers. The goal is to aim for a few and simple rules as possible. We do not impose any financial obligations on our readers. The next function is library accounts and audits. Library boards should provide appropriate mechanism for reviewing library accounts. It may set up an accounting subcommittee to audit it. Library regulations. Library committee must keep library laws and regulations up to date. Redundant provisions will be eliminated, necessary changes proposed, and the laws and regulations aligned with current library service philosophies. Library service. The library board will do its best to ensure full coverage and standard library services in all locations under its jurisdiction by the opening new chapters, providing better and more books and staff. Next function of library committee is library cooperation. The library committee needs to find ways and means to ensure cooperation between different libraries in the region and among other institutions, especially educational ones. The next things which we are going to discuss is formation of a library committee. Immediately after a decision is made to establish a library, it is beneficial to have a library committee that can define short-term and long-term goals and objectives and make plans to achieve them. It should be reflected in the committee's constitution that the committee represent the people the library will serve. For public libraries, this can include people from all walks of life, that is teachers, students, professionals, workers, community leaders, mothers, seniors and others who are interested in libraries. For academic libraries, the Vice Chancellor or the principal concerned will act as president and ensure representation of all sections of academics such as professors, department heads, other teachers, administrative staff and students. Once the committee is established, it must be decided how to structure it. The strength and categories of members must be clearly decided and mentioned. On a committee, there may be committee officers such as presidents, sometimes called chairman, vice president, secretary and treasurer. The term of the committee may be 1 year or more, but the term of the committee, the number of meetings required per year and the minimum and maximum intervals between meetings should be stated. There may be provision of honoring good performers by re-electing them and allowing people to politely resign when they no longer wish to serve it. It also ensures that officers are rotated regularly, giving more people get the opportunity to serve. Establishing library committees and writing guidelines are important steps to the library success. Having a committee ensures that library will reflect the needs of the community and the written guidelines ensure that the committee has clear rules of action. It is always necessary to examine the efforts of the governing body to determine the extent to which its objectives are being achieved at any given time. The next is constitution of library committee in academic institutions. Various library committees are established under the authority of library or under the statutes and regulations of the present institution. Their constitution may differ from one organization to another. Generally, the librarian acts as the secretary of the committee and has a chairman and several members on a library committee. The number of members can still vary between organizations. In India, the library committee are of advisory type in academic institutions, especially in colleges. These are merely concerned with the book selection work. In colleges, the president or chairman of the school, board or the president of the college may be the president and the dean and the faculties and one or more two senior teachers are appointed or elected as members. Likewise, in Indian universities, there is a provision for a library committee which consists of heads of various teaching departments of the university. Their elaborate powers and functions are detailed in the relevant statutes of the university. The library committee generally have the following functions: allocation of book funds to various subjects, framing and suggesting amendments to the library rules, assessment of the library services provided by the library, suggesting improvements in library services, especially in automation. In most Indian universities, the Vice Chancellor is the President, and the Deans and some other senior faculty members form the library committee. Usually people are appointed in the library committee for a period of 2 or 3 years, and they have to really care about the library and its growth and development. The constitution of library committees in public libraries. Though no integrated system of public libraries is found for the whole of India, yet library committees did exist in different states of the country to maintain public library services under Public Libraries Act. Let us explore the constitution of library committees in some states of Public Library Act were passed at the early stage. Library Committee under Tamil Nadu Public Libraries Act 1948. Under this act, two kinds of committees, that is State Library Committee and Local Library Committee, are to be appointed by the government. In the State Library Committee is to be constituted by the government for the purpose of advising them on such matters related to libraries which may refer to it. The library committees under Andhra Pradesh Public Library Act 1960. The State Library Committee section 3 of the Act provides that the government shall constitute for the purpose of this Act a State Library Committee. It shall consist of 23 members, and the Minister of Education shall be its chairman. The Deputy Director or Director of Public Libraries shall be its secretary. The committee shall advise the government on all matters which may arise under the Act. The Library Committee under Karnataka Public Library Act 1965. The State Library Authority section 3 of the Mysore Karnataka Public Library Act 1965 provides for the constitution of State Library Authority. It shall consist of 16 members beside one person elected by the syndicates of each of the universities in the state. The Minister of Education and the State Librarian shall be its chairman and secretary respectively. Let us see library committees under the Maharashtra Public Library Act of 1967. State Library Council section 3 of the Maharashtra Public Libraries Act 1967 provides for the constitution of the State Library Council. It shall consist of 28 members. The Minister and Deputy Minister for Education shall be the ex officio President and Vice President of the Council respectively. The Director of Libraries shall its Secretary. The State Library Council shall advise the state government on all matters connected with the administration of this Act. So, dear students, let us conclude that library governance means the act, process or power of library management to achieve real direction and control. Governance also means the act of managing or exercising power. Library councils exercise good governance, which is imperatively for the efficient functioning of the library system. The librarian alone cannot manage the library because he has to interact with the authorities, with the users, with the library staff. Sometimes he may desperately needs someone who can defend him convincingly, especially when he needs more staff, funds and support for his policies and programs. So, the librarians needs a library committee to advocate for his library. Thank you.